Hello people, welcome to Fresh Off the Block. This is a new format that we're trying out, so be kind to us. Hopefully this will work as well we expect it to. We'll wait for a few people to join in. This is a new format of Fresh Off the Block that we're trying out, and we have a very special guest today, Mustafa Ghouse, who is the CEO of JSW Sports. So we're going to bring him in very soon. Let's
Hi, Mustafa.
Hi, Ulas. How are you?
I'm good. How are you holding up?
All okay, man. All okay.
You're based out of Bombay, right?
Yes, yes.
So, given the pandemic, given the extent of damage out there, how are things out there? Like, are you able to work from home, or is it a complete standstill?
No, we've been working from home. It's been almost 2 months now, and
Okay.
yeah, the numbers in Bombay are pretty bad. So, uh, pretty strict with everyone being in indoors and trying to maintain all the norms. So, let's see.
Sure.
We have to all just be patient with this one.
Yeah, social media tells me there are two kinds of people this lockdown. One is the sort that suddenly realize that they were born with 5 heads and 15 arms, and then there are those who don't need to shop for vegetables because they've turned into one. So, which one are you?
No, trying to maintain a balance. I think trying to maintain a balance and try and keep as good a routine as one can. But yeah,
Sure.
it's challenging, no doubt.
Sure, sure. But thank you for doing this. I've always maintained that as BFC fans, we are one of the most privileged fans in the country, given the level of access we have enjoyed with the club over the years. But even so, getting you to spend some time with us, it's really, really special. So thanks a lot for
Well,
doing
I,
this.
I was actually a bit surprised, to be honest, but glad to be here and glad to be chatting with everyone.
Sure. I'm going to actually start with a warm-up question for you, Mustafa. Just your West Block membership hinges on you getting this right. No pressure. And also no pressure. We are competing with the Bundesliga returning. So,
Yes.
so the first question is, do you remember the first time the West Block chanted for you? I remember it because I was there.
Ooh. Would it be the season finale of the first year?
Absolutely, you got it right. So you're
When we did the open bus parade.
Oh, actually, no. Actually, you got that part wrong. It was even before that. It was in Goa when we lifted the trophy. The first time a bunch of us just
That
broke into
that that
Mustafa,
that night's
Mustafa.
a bit of a blur, so you gotta excuse me on that one.
Absolutely. No, I completely understand. It was a blur for a lot of us. But so even now, when we meet a lot of fans who were there, we sort of piece together the sequence of events because a lot of things we've forgotten in that frenzy.
Yeah.
But let's get into some of the most serious sort of questions we have. Even before you joined BFC, even before you joined JSW Sports, you were a very successful sports person. Can you reflect a bit on your career as a tennis player and what was the most satisfying thing for you as an athlete?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, tennis has been life since I could remember. I was born into a family where my dad and my uncles all played tennis. My granddad was obsessed with tennis, so um, it was just by default. I was 4 years old and I had tennis rackets all around me, and um, the easiest way to keep me from creating a nuisance at home was to send me to the tennis courts. So I was packed off at any given chance, and I also got obsessed with the sport, and for as long as I could remember, that's all I wanted to do, and was lucky that I got the right guidance and the right support when I needed it the most, and was able to make a career out of it. So
Sure.
everything I am right now, everything I've learned in life, and that I look to kind of learn, I mean, use when I'm in trouble situations, pressure for situations, is related to whatever we've learned as tennis players. It's a very special upbringing.
Sure. And then do you have a specific highlight in mind in terms of a very special moment in your career as a player?
Right. There are many, man. There are many. I think winning my first tournament when I was, I think, 12 or 13, because I started off and for a long time I was like, I used to never win. I was not a very good junior. I was actually quite short and tubby. So I used to get exposed physically. Yeah, I think when it goes back to winning nationals for the first time in Calcutta was special. Being part of the Indian team, going to the Asian Games is special. So yeah, a whole host of things that will always stay with me.
Sure, sure. The reason I bring that up is you played in the Davis Cup, and it's very interesting because growing up as a tennis fan, the Davis Cup was one tournament we used to always look forward to because somehow our contingent would find that extra gear while playing Davis Cup, and a lot of overseas tennis players would find out that playing tennis in India is extremely different because suddenly the tennis court would it would transform into a Chinnaswamy or a Kantirava, flags waving, loud chants, or umpire with their 500 announcements kar raha hai, let please maintain silence. So how was the whole experience of representing India?
It is really, really special. It's as close to, I guess, football atmosphere as all of us have now come to terms with. But yeah, I think we've seen some epic results with Leander, Mahesh, and prior to that, Ramesh Krishnan and Vijay Amritraj. They've been able to raise their game and been able to pull off results which on a normal tour match with rankings and with track records you would not have expected them to do. So yes, it's unbelievable an atmosphere, and it's the best feeling when you were playing tennis. So the difference is that as tennis is an individual sport, we don't get that team feeling very often.
Yeah.
It's a very, very lonely sport. We're on the road by ourselves. We do, and especially for us from India, where we may have one or two, maybe three guys who are also in the same boat as you, traveling around and competing. So it's extremely lonely, unlike other countries where there'll be a whole host of guys and they'll have their coach, have their trainers around, and we would just be ourselves. We would be our own trainers, our own coaches. We would be watching each other's matches and telling them, our buddies what they did wrong or what they did right. So it's an extremely lonely sport. So when we came into the Davis Cup atmosphere, or you came into an Asian Games atmosphere, it was just very, very special because you had a whole group of guys and girls that were all competing for the team and for the tricolors, and it's very special.
Sure, I can imagine. So as someone who knows a thing or two about winning medals for India, was the JSW sports project the logical next step, or was it just serendipitous that it just so happened it fell into your lap?
So in between tennis and JSW, there was a year and a half at a sports management firm in Bombay called Global Sport, which is owned by a very, very dear friend.
Mahesh Bhupati.
Yeah. So there was that, and in fact, it was Mahesh who introduced me to Path and Mr. Jindal, because they had met, they had expressed interest of wanting to get into setting up a sports vertical within the group. But I think from day one, it's just been hand in glove in terms of everything we've done with JSW, and it doesn't feel like a job. It doesn't feel like I'm working for anyone. They are so passionate and so committed to everything that we have gone ahead and proposed, that it is the reason why we all do what we do. Because it is. We don't say this because we feel it's the right thing to say. We say it because we mean it and we feel it.
Sure. So you're also very closely involved with the Inspire Institute of Sport, and it's got a lot of attention in the last few years for the sheer ambition of that project and the state-of-the-art infrastructure that we have in place. As someone who has gone through the grind and realized firsthand the struggles of winning a medal at the international arena, realistically speaking, how long do you think the road is to us winning medals consistently at the Olympics?
Well, I think that question is really tough to answer because it varies from sport to sport.
Sure.
If you see, technically in wrestling, we have been winning consistently for the last 3 Olympics. And the same would go for badminton and shooting, except for the Rio performance where shooting was a disappointment. Since 2008, or sorry, even before that, since Athens and 2004, it's been a medal at least every 4 years. So I think we will start seeing a lot more happening. It's extremely positive to see the smaller steps that are being taken at a ground level. I think the ministry, the sports authority, they're all being a lot more proactive and a lot more aware of what's happening globally. So I think that Paris will be a really, really good breakthroughs Olympics for India. I think Tokyo will be great. Also, we should see. I would like to say our best ever performance. Hopefully, we take the maximum out of this extended 1-year period and we really come up on top. But I think there are a lot of young kids that are going to break through by the time Paris comes around.
Sure. And there is also a football subset to this. Our academy has benefited a lot from Inspire Institute of Sport. Could you tell us a little bit about the academy itself? Like, as fans, we get a lot of visibility into the first team and possibly even reserves, but that's where it stops. In terms of the vision for the academy itself, could you tell us a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the academy is something that we've all been very, very committed and passionate about from day one. You guys would all know back in the day in the I-League, clubs were just setting up academies just to tick a box, and they were just temporary things that would be sort of in place for a few months and then everything would die. So that was definitely not how we were wanting to do it, and we were very committed, and it has been an agenda item for us from the start, and it continues to be. We do invest a substantial amount of money into our academies, and yes, the opportunity for these kids to take advantage of the IIS facilities and the IIS manpower that we have and the technical staff that we have in the non-footballing aspects of the institute is something they wouldn't get anywhere else. They wouldn't even get that in Bangalore if the academy was based out of Bangalore. So I think we're really confident. The goals for the academy is not to be winning their age groups. It's not about development. It's about continuously improving and producing more and more players. Because for us, it is important to find the next lot. We have 5 or 6 boys that have now come through the B team and the reserve team to make it into the first team last season. But we want to see a lot more of that.
And that provides a nice little segue to my next question. We've always sort of prided ourselves on being more than just a regular football club. Like you said, a lot of football clubs put in place an academy just to take the, compliances, essentially speaking. But for us, even something as having a partnership with a more established European club, it had been very well thought through. In fact, when the Rangers deal was announced, one of the things that I took away from the entire incident was that was the comment that we don't want a partnership for the sake of a partnership. We wanted to actually move the needle in terms of the ecosystem, in terms of the way we operate. And just months later, the Bala Devi deal happened. So that has really gotten a lot of fans excited. What more can we expect as fans from this Rangers partnership? Could we possibly look at a scenario where Stevie Gerrard comes and plays at the Kantirava or visits Kantirava? What can we expect as fans?
No, I think from I would say almost year one or start of year two of our journey, there have been many proposals and conversations with European clubs to collaborate
Sure.
or to do something. But for one reason or the other, it never felt right. It didn't feel like it was a win-win for both. The agendas were probably not synced, and so
Sure.
we never, even though some of them are much more high-profile clubs and
Absolutely.
with probably bigger fan bases in India and a lot more that we could probably leverage from. We always refrain from actually penning anything down with them because it
Sure.
just, like I said, it just didn't feel right. In the back of our minds, it just didn't feel like it was the right fit. This Rangers Association kind of ticked all those boxes. It gave us the feeling that, listen, this could be a win-win for both, and there's a lot that we could learn from this, and it felt like they had their heart in the right place as well. With every conversation that the team was having, and it's visible with the way things have gone on. There's so much that they're doing which is off script. It's not always that everything is as per a contract and an agreement, and we have to do this and they have to do that.
Oh.
It's now becoming a relationship that is kind of evolving, and there's just a mutual comfort that is being developed. To answer your question, there were a few things planned which would have been very, very cool and interesting. Unfortunately, with this COVID-19 situation, it's going to probably get pushed. Maybe next summer, maybe later, I don't know. But we did have a few things on the agenda right now, but I guess we have to wait for that now.
We'll have to wait for that. That's perfectly understandable. But one thing also got a lot of attention in this Baladevi deal. A lot of conversations veered towards how BFC is committed towards women's football as well. Football is not a very insular, one-dimensional sort of practice or discipline at BFC. We're looking at the entire ecosystem. So given that, there's also a lot of talk about how ISL and I-League teams have been loath to fielding a women's team in the Indian Women's League. And I realize Manda sort of answered that question to an extent. But what's your take on when we could possibly look forward to a BFC women's team?
Listen, we've been keen from the first time the proposal was floated, but for whatever reasons, it just didn't make it. The proposals, the structures that were being laid out didn't really make sense. It was like, it was just like doing it for the sake of doing it, and that's not how we function. We were not really just keen to do it because we could just go out and say, oh, we have a women's team. We would do it because we were adding value to the women's team, and we've even had conversations with the AIFF about being associated with the national team, with the women's national team, without having anything to do with the club setup. So we are extremely committed to wanting to do something with women's football, and as and when there is a plan in place to have a league for the women, we would be front and center in that one.
Okay, super. That's great to know. Now coming to our men's team, given the pandemic and the COVID-19 outbreak, one thing that has sort of dried up and one thing that would usually keep us going during this long off season is all the transfer rumors. Suddenly everything has gone quiet. Is a lot of work happening behind the scenes still, or has there been a real slowdown?
No, there was a lot of work going on. We've been having extensive meetings, and there was a lot of discussions with Carles and Path and everybody involved. So we were moving along very quickly. In fact, it was literally days after the semi-finals that we got started. But yeah, as of right now, things are a bit in probably, I would say, second gear. Because of the uncertainties around, we don't know what's happening, in Europe. We don't know what's happening with the league. So in that sense, everything has been a bit on a little bit of a slow mode.
Sure, sure. Okay, and a lot of people seem to be asking, and Sunil Chetri seems to have opened this whole can of worms. Is Iniesta actually coming to BFC?
No, I don't think so.
Uh, so you have already broken a few hearts because a lot of people were, and I'm assuming that was a flat out denial. So a lot of people were expecting Iniesta to actually join BFC. So good to know we can disabuse ourselves of that notion. Now moving on, we have won 6 trophies in 6 seasons, and that's been the gold standard as far as a new football club is concerned. But that also meant that not winning anything in the 7th season was seen as a bit of a letdown. As fans, of course, we have our opinions on this, but as a club, what is the club's response to going trophyless for a season?
It was going to happen at some stage.
Of course.
It was good. It was. I mean, it's unheard of to go 6 seasons with trophies. So, I mean, that just it speaks volumes of the boys, and it speaks volumes of the coaching staff, and their desire and hunger to keep fighting. To be honest, if there was a Fed Cup or a Super Cup, we would have had a crack at it, and maybe it would have been 7. We
Sure.
didn't have that opportunity, so we can't really say much about that. But I think there was a lot for us to learn from this season. To be honest, we've introspected a lot in terms of how we've gone about certain decisions and certain phases of the season, and maybe preparatory wise as well. And I think there's a lot for us. You learn more when you lose than when you win. Though we as a club have always tried to learn, even when we're winning, and always trying to raise the bar. But yes, losing hurts a lot more, and it really gets you to think, and try and not make the same mistakes you made a second time round. So yes, a lot of discussions have happened, and hopefully we'll be better the next year.
Sure. We look forward to that, and we expect nothing less as fans. But moving slightly away from football, but staying within sports in general, there's been a lot of takes on how sports are not. It's not important to talk about sports at this point, given the scale of the pandemic that we are facing. But at the same time, fact remains that it's a massive industry that has already suffered a massive slowdown, and it might get worse before it gets better, right? So a lot of our fans are sports management students, and they're all looking forward to a career in this space. So how do you think the sports industry worldwide would recover from this, and what would be your advice to all these aspirants?
Well, it is a massive industry, and it's only growing.
Yeah.
It brings a lot more to the table than just the economics around it. I think all through this pandemic, everyone is craving for live sport to come back on, even though it is not
Absolutely.
the most important thing in the world right now. Health, safety, vaccine
Sure.
are paramount. But still, everyone is craving for live sport. And I mean, we're watching K-League, and we're watching whatever comes our way. And I mean, if it wasn't for this, we would all be watching the Bundesliga right now. So
Sure.
it has a very special place for everyone. For everyone that wants to get into the industry and wants to make a career out of it, I'm a huge believer that sport is going to bounce back.
Sure.
It may be in a different shape or form. The normal is, we don't know what the new normal is going to be for anything in this world right now. But sport is known for being resilient and for being able to bounce back from any tough situation, from any loss. And I don't think this is going to be any different. We are going to find a way to continue to grow the industry. I'm constantly speaking to so many guys all over the world in different sectors within the industry. And I mean, the stuff that people are thinking about and how they would like to bridge any gaps that we are talking about, closed doors games, limited access, all that, everything. There's some unbelievable stuff that everyone is thinking about, technology, AR, VR.
Sure.
It's going to be crazy once things open up. So I am very confident that we will innovate, we will recreate ourselves as an industry globally, and bounce back. So all those who are wanting to get into it, don't back away. Yes, we will all go through a little bit of a lean phase over the next 8 to 12 months, because that's just the situation that the entire world is in, the entire economy is in. But eventually things will open up.
Excellent. Okay, and on that optimistic note, I'm down to my last two questions, but I hope I get to ask you a couple of questions that people in the comments are asking.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. So, given that we as fans, we have a lot of favorite moments at BFC. Not all of them are strictly the same as probably a club official would have, because for us it would be a spat on the ground, or someone getting one over the other. As someone who's been with the club right from day one, what is your favorite BFC moment?
Hey man, it's tough to pick one.
That's because you built such a great team that it's become a tough challenge for you to pick one. Blame yourself.
I think my most favorite moment, or I would say favorite few hours, was the night before our first game ever against Bagan.
Sure.
To the finishing of that game was just, and I mean, it was 24 hours of absolute mayhem. And so many things that we were not prepared for happened in that phase, but somehow we pulled through, and we had a great game, and you guys just for some reason packed the stadium for, I don't know why and how, but I think that whole little 24-hour window was probably the most special in this whole BFC journey. I have one really funny memory, so for some reason we had numbered the gates different from what KSFA usually numbers the gates, and overnight it got repainted. I don't know how, but it just got repainted. So our tickets had
just something. Indian football things, eh?
Yeah, our tickets had something, and they had gone and repainted it to what they thought that their gate numbers usually were. So it was just chaos, right? And people were used to walking into the stadium never having to buy a ticket, because that was how it was.
Yeah.
And there were so many people that were just pushing and shoving, and we were scared, because you know how the stadium is, right? It's not the safest place to be, especially when you are packed to the rafters, and people were just pushing and shoving, and I don't know Kannada, and they were just going on at me. And one guy was like, "I'm from the cops, I'm undercover cops," and this, that, the other, and just pushing and shoving, trying to get in, and we were just helpless. They went and broke the gate, the lock to go up to the first floor of the West Stand, and after a little while, we were like, you know what, whatever happens, let's just get on with it. And I think that first game is always going to stay with us, because we did everything we could to put on a show, and the boys did everything on the pitch to really stamp what was going to be the start of a very special journey.
Absolutely. I still remember it was the first game, and even then when Sabir scored that equalizer, I could feel that palpable sense of disappointment, and knew back then that it was going to be a very special story ahead. But I'll take one question from the comments here. A lot of people are asking about the stadium, and this has been a recurring issue for a lot of fans. Every season we read something about it. when can we foresee a future where BFC has its own stadium in Bangalore?
That's been our dream and our plan from literally year one. Obviously, it is a lot more complicated than we envisioned, and
Sure.
we continue to keep plugging away at it. It is a dream. It is a huge KRA for all of us. We know how important it is to have our own stadium, and we also know how difficult it is to pull off a season where in Kandirva. So
Sure.
that is the plan, and that is something that we want to give back to the city.
Sure. As fans, we by now we have become familiar with a lot of people at the club, and we constantly pride ourselves on the high standards we have for everything, right? Be the media team coming up with those brilliant blueprints and so on and so forth in every respect. How difficult was it to put this team together at BFC?
Oof. I don't know. I feel like all just came together. I didn't know Mandar till ever before. Even though, strangely enough, his brother and I have played tennis since we were 14 years old, but I had never met Mandy. Maybe he had seen us come. Maybe he had come to some of the tournaments in Pune, but we had never really met. We met for the first time at the first AIFF open house when they were looking at corporate teams wanting to come into the I League, and we were introduced by one of our directors at the time, Kunal Agarwal, and we got started on this project. And one by one, we've been able to kind of pick the guys that we want on board. Kunal's CV came into my inbox through Nayantara, who I think is online somewhere over here. And we were all shocked because we never thought he would leave TOI or Bombay for that matter. And he came on board, and one by one we handpicked everybody, and they've been there with us from day one. It's not a work environment. It's fun and games. Everyone is obsessed with the team. Everyone is so invested into the team. They feel that it is their money that is being put in. It hurts when we lose. They cry more than the players. And I think we've just been extremely lucky to get these people to come work with us.
That's what. Long may that flock stay together. And you've been super kind with your time, Mustafa. I'll ask you to do one small thing before you leave. That's to pick a five-a-side team from BFC. But there's a catch. You can't pick Sunil Chhetri because he's this ever-present, isn't he? Like RR Bangalore hero these days. Danish State says, "Mama, let's put one kerchief." So that's how any BFC side is. Sunil Chhetri's kerchief is already there. So, what would your five-a-side be without Sunil Chhetri?
Ooh. With a goalkeeper or without?
I'll leave that to you.
Okay, we'll go.
I hope Gurpreet isn't watching this.
Yes, Gurpreet. We'll go with I'll go with Jono.
Okay.
I'll go Alvaro Rubio. 2.
Yeah.
Niku Udanta. So that's 4. And I would go with I guess I'll go with Dimas.
Brilliant. That's a classic winning team. But because you mentioned Niku and our comment section is being spammed left, right, and center, can we put that one to rest as well? That are we bringing Niku back? Clearly, a lot of fans would be happy if we did.
I know a lot of people would be very, very happy. I think it's something that we will see. I mean, he was special for us. He was the best striker
Sure.
that we've ever had, and he raised the bar for everybody around him. He was a thorough professional, and I think Sunil and Udanta really got to shine with him around.
Sure.
And that was our best, striking combination. But let's see. Never say never.
All right, perfect. And by the way, if you didn't notice, Carlos popped up in the comments saying that's a good selection. And that's also probably because I didn't ask you who the coach of that team would be. And now I have a feeling you only have one answer for that.
Yeah, no. Sorry, was that another question?
Yeah, so if you had to pick a coach for your five side, who would that
I had to pick a coach. Well, if Carlos is on, then Carlos. But I think the combination of Carlos and Roca was for me an exceptional team.
Sure.
I think I personally learned a lot from seeing the way they both work together, and
Sure.
I continue to learn a lot from Carlos. So it is special to be working with these guys.
Brilliant. This has been a wonderful interaction, Mustafa. Thank you so much for taking this time.
Thank you.
I tried to reduce it to half an hour, but then there was way too much to talk about.
Oh, no,
but hope you stay safe and hope we get to speak soon again.
Yes, take care, everyone, and it was really nice chatting with you.
Thank you. Right, that was Fresh Off the Block in a new format. If you have any feedback, keep it coming, and we'll be back very soon. Watch out for the announcement.